So let's talk about the top 5 activities you could do as a solo player for when you're jumping on for 10, 15 minutes and you cannot or will not find a group and go ahead and finish something off. There's honestly not a lot of things that you can do in this game as a solo player, which is a little sad due to the fact that Hell 2 and Hell 1 even basically require a party for everything. For Hell 1, at least, you only need 2 players, but for Hell 2, to enter dungeons, hidden layers, and oftentimes just general farming, you really want to be a party or need to be a party to even do it at all. So let's talk about things that you may want to save for when you are alone, grinding those things out. Let's jump into it. So the first activity is going to be challenge rifts. Now, this is different between whether or not you're a free to play or pay to play player. If you're pay to play, you probably could be challenging multiple challenge rifts per day and pushing and pushing and pushing. It's pretty much gated by your spending. If you are free to play, this is something that you may want to attempt every day or every other day or even every 3 days, because you don't want to waste a ton of time trying to beat a level when you could just wait a day and then beat that level instantaneously. And you can see in the background here, I'm actually challenging level 40 here, and level 40 is pretty tough for me. I actually die quite a few times. So definitely something that I might want to return to later, so that'll be an easier process and I don't use as much time trying to complete it. But these are generally gated by your combat rating. So if you're able to get enough combat rating or just general stats with like raw damage stats, life stats, things like that, you may be able to challenge this and do a solid job. Now, one tip for this I will mention, and that is if you get a poor spawn, which I would consider this hell dungeon behind me a decently poor spawn, you can actually back out of the challenge rifts, jump back into it, and get a different spawn for a dungeon. It may take you a few times. Generally, the first 2 times you enter a challenge rift has been the same, what I've experienced. After that, it can be a vastly different challenge rift, and that can help you progress even further than you might have been able to before. Also, avoid yellows. Those things hurt. This next one is not for everyone, but I definitely recommend that you jump in and do at least 3 battlegrounds per day. Now, you cannot see it here, but generally, every single day, you'll have 3 opportunities to gain a buttload of experience. Granted, it is much less than just grinding out Elder Rifts or Library or another open world content. However, this is usually some of players' most favorite activities if you're the PvP type of player. You can do it entirely solo. In fact, the only way you can do it is solo, and the rewards are solid for those first 3 activities. After that, the rewards drop off significantly. Each of these battlegrounds generally takes about 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how long all of the defense actually takes. But overall, it's a very solid activity for very solid rewards for the first 3 parts of the day. And if you enjoy that PvP aspect, or you're a pay-to-play player and you want to top the leaderboards, go for it. It is incredibly fun PvP in this game. The only downside is it is pay to win. So if you are that type of player that isn't going to be spending a ton of money, you may not have a ton of fun at PvP. And you should definitely probably stick to the 3 per day and not go over that. Next up is open world farming, and I'm not talking about library or anything like that specifically. Library is an option, but when you're playing as a solo player, library starts to fall off, in my opinion, especially considering there's so many groups there. And you as a solo player, yes, you could tag a bunch of monsters, but the quests that spawn are not going to be for you generally. And there are oftentimes a lot of other grinding spots. I think library can be an option for you. But as you can see in the background here, I'm actually in the realm of damnation. There are a few spots that kind of go in a big circle, and you can just run around that circle killing off monsters. A quest monster happened to pop up for me here. Blue packs oftentimes are popping up because you're moving in such a large radius. And overall, you'll just get a lot of things to kill as a solo player. Again, library is an option, but realm of damnation, Mount Zaven, Frozen Tundra, there's quite a few areas. Not to mention, you're going to want to keep track. You can. We'll have a meta event timer out here soon on our Aftershock website. But keep track of the Ancient Nightmares, the Blood Roses, all of those different types of bosses, because those will give you a lot of rewards as well as a decent amount of experience if you time it when you're actually entering those battles to when right when the boss dies or right before the boss spawns basically around that time, you're going to get a lot of extra value. Instead of sitting there and farming through the whole thing, joining in when that boss has 10% HP will be a nice boost to experience. So right here we have contracts and bounties realistically, but solo contracts for the Shadows clan are going to give you the same amount of experience, that 324k as you saw right before this, as doing them in dungeons or groups. So there's really no reason to do them specifically in groups. You can just do them in solo, get the same amount of experience. These usually take about 5 minutes for me, and they have very different activities, from making sure that you're sneaking around and disguising yourself, or making sure that you go ahead and forge some documents, killing monsters, collecting essence, talking to people, all sorts of different activities with the Shadow Clan. But overall, it's actually one of the best ways to get experience in it. You can get 300k experience per 5 minutes based on my own average of doing contracts. Now keep in mind, this is a daily activity, and so you can only run this once per day unless you've stacked up a few of them. Same with bounties. Now bounties are actually something that I would not recommend you do all the time, especially if you're just running around. If you're actively playing and you don't want to sit there and lazily play, go ahead and run our number one method, which we'll go over in just a moment. But if you're sitting there and you want to take a few breaks, you want to play for 30 seconds, I don't know, you're doing something, you're talking to someone, whatever it is, running bounties is the perfect example, because it's basically open world farming, but in specific areas for specific quests, which is really nice, which is one of the reasons why I put it above open world farming in general, but still not an amazing method for experience. Definitely something that you're going to want to do very lazily, where you could take breaks and do whatever you need to do while you're playing solo. But contracts, on the other hand, definitely a must-have, something that you should be doing all the time. And the number one method is going to be Elder Rifts. This is no surprise. Most of the other methods are pretty solid, but if you're a solo player, honestly, the only real thing you could do is run Elder Rifts. Now, this is not to say that you're at a disadvantage necessarily. Experience is one of the most important parts of the game. I will say, once you reach level 30, there's not really a realistic goal for the following few days, even a week or 2 weeks. The next upgrade you're going to get is at Paragon 80. So what are you going to do for the next 2-3 weeks? Well, you're going to be getting gear upgrades, experience, and hopefully something else pops up during that time. But Elder Rifts, if you're below that Paragon level, this is the best way to get experience. Generally, you could run solo Elder Rifts faster than you can run with a group, which means you're getting massive experience gains, more so than the library, more so than the open world farming, and more so than group Elder Rift farming, which is very impressive. So if you have a few minutes a day, or if you have a few minutes for a break, a few minutes anywhere, run a couple Elder Rifts. They generally take 130 to 230 if you are very close paying attention, or you could just chill out and do them at your own pace. You have plenty of time. You can do them in 3, 4, 5 minutes. You can watch something onto the side, which is generally the advantage of playing solo. But Elder Rifts in particular are going to be a massive boost to any sort of character you're building out, simply be due to the fact how much experience you can gain per hour with Elder Rifts. So that is going to be our list of the top 5 solo methods for grinding. Unfortunately, this game does not have a lot of options in terms of playing solo, especially with dungeons. I really hope that they change that in the future, because I don't know about you all, but I actually like playing solo most of my day. I don't really like jumping in and trying to find a group, or if my group disappears because I'm a harder grinder than they are, well, I have to go find a new group just to run some more dungeons. I prefer just to do straight 3-4 hours of running Elder Rifts or whatever it is, and then coming back later. And so I really hope that they add solo dungeons in the future, nerf our drop rate a little bit, whatever you need to do. I don't really care. Make the experience lower. I mean, we already get nerfed because you don't get the normal gem drop rate, so maybe you don't even need that. Just make it so that we can run dungeons solo and I can get gear, because it is really unfortunate how little the amount of things that you can actually do as a solo player. That all being said, hopefully you enjoyed, and I apologize for my solo grinders out there. I'll be sticking with Elder Rifts for the time being when I'm playing solo, but I'll see you the next one.